Welcome to the Introvert Sisters, the podcast by introverts for introverts, hosted by Sharon and Lisa, two INFJs with a lot to say.
Hi, I'm Sharon.
And I'm Lisa.
And together,
we're the Introvert Sisters.
Welcome to the podcast.
Welcome, welcome, welcome.
Okay, let us dive straight in with introverts uniting separately.
Which is what we do, because we're in two different places.
We're in two different places, and we like to catch up at the start of the podcast and, welcome to our living room, basically.
Yeah, so welcome to our living room. Because this is basically how we just talk. It just happens to be recorded, but this is how we chat anyway. So, you know what I'm about to ask you.
What are you going to ask me?
Wagwan.
Wagwan. Yes, okay. So lots of things are going on, in fact. So one of the things that is happening is that I am judging a flash fiction contest. I don't know if there's still going to be time to enter by the time this episode airs.
Right.
So that's been really.
Yeah, this might be airing on the last day or possibly
something like that. So if it's airing and you're a really quick writer, you still have time to enter.
Well, that's why it's called flash fiction, right?
Exactly.
Right on the last day.
So it's kind of interesting. A friend of mine is creating a board game called Body Be Gone, right? And this is not a game. It is not a game about murder. It's a game about disposal. Just to be clear.
I had gone down the murder route, so.
No. So the fiction contest is to get a backstory for the Body Be Gone franchise. How did they get into the business of disposal? So.
Wait, hold on. It is not about murder, but it's about disposal of bodies. Am I getting that correct?
You are. So the game is that you want to open a Body Be Gone franchise, and you have to come up with it's like a mixture of Clue. Right? It's like a mixture of Clue and some other game that I can't remember now. So you have a couple of methods. And you have a board and you go around and, you have cards and all this kind of thing.
Right.
But the idea is that, you're not getting your hands dirty in terms of the actual extermination of people. You are merely helping the people who have exterminated to get rid of the evidence.
Oh, well.
I thought it sounded like a really innovative concept.
No accessory to a crime going on here at all.
Nothing to see. Move along, please. I thought it sounded like a very innovative concept.
Yeah.
And anyway, so the contest is to give a backstory to the franchise. How did they get into this business in the first place? Right? So that's what people have to be creative with. And the winner is actually going to be, is going to be included in the game. This is going to be the official backstory for the franchise.
Oh, awesome. So wait. It's kind of a side note. Have you ever watched Ozark on Netflix?
I haven't, I haven't.
Anyway, this sounds kind of Ozarkish.
It does?
To me.
It does?
Yes.
Okay, I'll take your word for it.
Yeah.
I'll take your word for it. So that has been kind of interesting. And so my friend Nicole Fendi, who came up with the game, invited me.
Sorry, what's her name again?
Nicole Fendi.
Ah, okay.
She invited me to become one of the judges for the flash fiction contest. So I'm quite excited about that because, I love reading.
Yeah.
Thrillers are kind of up my street. So I think it's going to be very interesting. So tell me what you have been up to. And then I'll tell you one more thing I've been up to.
Okay. So what I have been up to, I feel actually accomplished because this week Although I feel like if almost every time we catch up, I mention Netflix, but
That's all right.
but fine. But I've Netflix is still gonna come in, but I've done more than that this week. So I actually recently guested on the We've Never Met podcast
Oh, wow.
by Charlotte, the writer.
Yeah.
Um, and it was an amazing experience. It was my first time guesting on somebody else's podcast.
Yeah.
And she is actually also an introvert.
Oh, wow.
So it kind of was interesting to me. It was interesting to me just conceptually.
Mm-hmm.
Why would an introvert come up with, of all things, a podcast about speaking to people for the first time? Because
Right.
introverts are not known to love that, if you see what I'm
No, no,
saying.
no. Obviously not.
And so exactly. So I found the concept fascinating. She and I are sort of like in our, own mutual fan club
Mm-hmm.
on Instagram. And she does these, her content is served up in a very unique way. It's mainly
Mm-hmm.
text on Instagram, right? Text on squares,
Okay.
but she writes them as mini screenplays.
Oh, wow.
And
That
so
sounds interesting.
so she serves up a lot of anti-racism and activism related content, but
Mm-hmm.
it's done as a mini screenplay.
Okay.
Like it is just the most fascinating thing, and it is snackable and bite-sized, you
Okay.
know. And so I'm a fan of her format.
Mm-hmm.
But the chat was nice. It was nice. So when it comes out, I will of course share the link
Of
with
course.
you. But it was just so good, and actually, for two introverts, we chatted up a storm. You could not get us to shut up, actually, because we we actually went overtime.
Oh, wow.
And
That's
yeah,
exciting,
so
sis.
it was, huh?
That is exciting.
It is exciting. It's good to just sort of branch out and do something different. And
Yes.
my words came to me easily, so I did not
Oh,
sound,
wonderful.
yes, it didn't sound like I was like searching for my words as I so often am.
Mm-hmm.
So it was a good day. It was a good night.
So before you get into what else you've
Yes.
been doing, let me tell
Yes.
you about a similar experience that I had
Hmm.
when I was a panel guest on a discussion on literature and anti-racism. The video is
Right.
not
What was
out
this? Oh
yet.
wow.
This was a guy called Kevin Kamau, he's on Netflix. You've probably seen him, and
Hmm.
he has a consultancy, and he's been having what he calls safe space for anti-racism conversation. So he invites some blacktivists, as I like to call them, to
Yeah.
come and talk about different topics. So
Hmm.
this was ours. I was on a panel with three other wonderful women who had published books and who were doing their activism in their different spaces. A couple of them from Canada. One was a woman from Africa, and it
Hmm.
was it was just it was just wonderful to get different
Nice.
perspectives and also to learn how many things we share in this experience of racism. Two
Hmm.
of us experienced it from the post-colonial context, because I said one woman was
Right.
African,
Yes.
and the other two from being in white majority countries. So it was very interesting to see where the
Yeah.
similarities and differences were.
Right.
But
Oh,
anyway,
cool.
more on that, I guess, when it comes out. And, we can always drop a link to that in the show notes and to the podcast that you took part
Yes.
in. So tell me about the
Absolutely.
last thing that you've been up to before we actually get to the
Okay.
main
Okay.
topic.
So the last thing, of course, like I said, Netflix. Netflix always has to show its face here. So I started watching Social Distance
Mhm.
on Netflix.
Ooh.
And okay, first of all, just a warning to anybody who is listening, there are going to be just a couple of small spoilers. If you do not want the spoilers, um, you know, tune back in and fast forward like a couple of minutes. Okay.
Okay.
All right. But yeah, so it's Social Distance, and it basically is an anthology miniseries on Netflix. I think there are like 8 episodes total.
Mm-hmm.
Each cast, of each episode is different, and they're dealing with highlighting how people have been handling the pandemic,
Oh,
what people have
wow.
been going through, um, sort of the discussions, the things that are taking place, but unless it's in your life, you might not have thought about it so much. So
Okay.
I know
You
one,
recommend?
for example, deals with like a virtual funeral,
Wow.
right?
Yeah.
And they started the first one off right because
What do you mean by that? I'm intrigued. I have it on my
because
list, but haven't started watching. So, I might have to just go immediately after this recording and start watching it. Okay, they started the first one, right?
well, this is just my personal thing because it stars Mike Coulter, aka Luke Cage.
Okay.
Right?
All right. All right. That's not bad.
I'm just saying.
I'm not mad.
Right? I'm just saying they had a strong lead in. They had a strong lead in for the first episode.
No objectification here. Nothing to see move
None.
along.
None. We're not going to say dark chocolate. We would never
No, no,
say
no,
that.
no, we're not saying that.
Right? But anyhow. But yeah, his episode was interesting because he's has a little bit of a substance abuse problem. So
Okay.
it is sort of him trying to deal with that and deal with the loneliness and
Right.
manage that whole situation without giving away too much,
Mm-hmm.
because I know you now want to
I'm gonna
watch it.
Yeah.
Yes. If only that episode with the completely non-objectified Mike Coulter.
I'm saying nothing. I'm not. I plead
Right?
the fifth.
You said what?
I plead the fifth.
Girl, I plead everything.
You're too bad.
I just plead, girl. I just plead. Anyway, let's be good.
Can't
Okay,
say
but
where.
on a serious note, it kind of is interesting because I had started thinking about the topic for this episode before even knowing about social distance on
Right.
Netflix,
Okay.
but it all kind of ties in. And so today's topic is 2020 the year of the introvert, right? Is 2020 the year of the introvert? And just to let everyone know, we won't be delving into them, but there will be a mention of suicide and mental health issues. So just a trigger warning for anybody who needs it. Okay.
Okay.
All right. So we can jump right in. So is 2020 the year of the introvert, sis? What do you think?
Well, in some ways, yes. In some ways, yes. Introverts like this slower, calmer, less frenetic pace, and the world is finally embracing what's natural for many introverts.
Right. Right.
So for people who had to shelter in place or lock down or quarantine, depending on where you were, what language it was used, the quiet was heavenly.
Right.
None of us likes the reason for it. Let's be clear. None of us likes the reason
Of course
for
not.
it. But
Yeah.
for many of us, not a lot changed. It felt like
Many of us introverts.
many of us introverts, yes. It felt like the world had implemented our way of life. It felt
Right.
like everything was a little quieter, a little calmer. I mean, for me, I've been working at home for 15 years, so I was still
Right.
at home. But everything was less busier. There were fewer calls on my time. There was nobody asking me for external meetings. Things just got quiet. Things just got quiet. I don't know how you found it over in Jersey.
Yeah, I was about to ask you. I'll answer that, and then I'd like to know what it was like what it felt like, what the mood felt like in Barbados at that time.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
certainly here, it was interesting. Just of course there was that slightly panicked calm, which is, I know it sounds like an oxymoron, but I think you get it, and everybody listening will get it, right? But if we're just focusing on the calm rather than the panic part of it, the calm was amazing. Like going out and walking my dog and knowing that I could literally just walk straight across the street. I didn't even have to look. I did look because that's what we were trained to do. There were no cars. There was no zero traffic initially. There was no traffic, and therefore none of that ambient noise that you get used to without even realizing that you're so used to it.
Yes.
So it felt like if the entire world had been blanketed.
Yes.
There were no people. There were no people around. Everything was super quiet, and it actually felt like if the planet had inhaled and had not yet exhaled. That's kind of how I can describe it. What about in Barbados?
It was quiet. I know what you mean about the panicked calm. It felt a bit like the calm before the storm because there was so much uncertainty.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it was super, super quiet. It felt a bit, and this is probably not a great analogy, but I Am Legend starring Will Smith, right?
It did feel like, yes.
When you walk outside and there's nobody,
Mm-hmm.
when you could do practically anything. I mean, for a lot of us, we spend a lot of time at home, but
Mm-hmm.
certainly in Barbados, at one stage, we were able to at least go out and exercise, even if we were home the rest of the time. And
Right.
you saw so few people.
Mm-hmm.
And even when you did, people
Mm-hmm.
were giving each other a wide berth.
Yeah.
So it was a weird sort of experience and atmosphere. But at
Mm-hmm.
the same time, being an introvert, less contact with people worked for me. I mean, I have to be honest.
It was amazing. It was
Right?
amazing. Yes.
Because of course,
And
most of us prefer our own company and we love
yeah,
spending time at home. So we got to do more of that.
yeah, which was great, and I know we covered all of this in a previous episode, so we won't go into detail, but of course, working from home, yes,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
All of the yes. Fewer distractions, and it's just like you said, it's our comfort zone. And while diving a little bit more deeply into the working from home, remote working experience, Zoom calls, I think, cater to introvert strengths.
Yes.
Introverts often get overlooked or talked over, either looked over or talked over.
In a meeting setting.
Yes, in an in-person setting, in an in-person meeting setting. But Zoom calls are great, or Microsoft Teams, whatever platform you're using, because now people only speak when necessary,
Mm-hmm.
right? They stay on topic.
Mm-hmm.
It's all about productivity rather than personality.
Mm-hmm.
There's not that, one hyper gregarious person who believes that they have the best idea that talks for 45 minutes of the 1 hour meeting.
Yes.
And dominates every meeting or call. Right. Volume can be turned down. People can be muted. It's a beautiful thing.
And cameras can
Yes.
often be off. Let's not
Cameras
forget that.
can be off.
Cameras can be off.
Yeah.
It is a wonderful thing.
Yeah. So I think from those, the little points that we mentioned, from those perspectives, yes, 2020 could be classified as the year of the introvert.
But of course, it's not really quite as simple as that, is it, sis?
Da 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 da. No, it is not. So yes, of course, there's some reasons why 2020 is not the year of the introvert, and is of course not the year for anybody, right? No. Because yes, we're speaking about introversion, and that is partially our focus, but some of what we're going to cover, has broader application.
Absolutely.
than just introverts. So I'll start by saying why it isn't. One of the reasons why 2020 is not the year of the introvert is that socializing in some form or fashion, now that the hard shutdown has stopped,
yes.
socializing in some form or fashion is still necessary.
Yes, it's coming back.
And it's coming back, and introverts are not really a fan. A lot of people, understandably, are trying to virtually recreate everything that they are missing. So they're trying to virtually recreate, I don't know, dance parties, dinners, happy hours, book clubs, tea parties, you name it.
Yes.
Which is nice. I get the reason for it, right? Yes. You want that connection. People are missing that connection, and I get it. Mm-hmm. I personally am not missing the connection that much. but I know other people are. But the thing is what that creates for introverts specifically is that once again, now there are all these, there are these demands on our time, on our energy, and on our virtual space.
Yes.
And on our virtual space. I don't know. How do you feel about that? Do you feel more pressure to be like extroverted in the virtual world or whatever?
There's definitely, everybody is sort of, as you said, they've embraced all these platforms and they're trying to recreate things. And some of them are definitely things you want to be a part of.
Oh,
but
yeah.
there are now so many of them.
That's it.
That early period when people were still working out what they were doing and there weren't as many. So, yes, okay, yes, I'll say yes to your Zoom call because I know that's probably the only one I'll have to do this week. But, in a given week now, there are 10 to 15 things that I could participate in, which is frankly
Easily.
too many for me.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
By the time I have done my work calls, which I have to do, right? By the time I have done those, and maybe there's one or two other things I would like to do. And then, one of the things I didn't mention earlier is that I'm about to start online teaching in a couple of weeks, once a week. And then I might end up doing more of that. So, that is another, I think that one's a Microsoft Teams, but same difference.
Yeah,
right?
Same thing.
And so after a while, if you've got a couple of those, because Zoom calls, as I think we have said on a previous episode, can be exhausting if you have too many of them in a day. And I think even extroverts find this to be the case.
Yes.
I talk to people who are people, and they say it's not the same as going out and meeting people. It's draining. And so if it's draining for extroverts, you can only imagine how draining it is for introverts.
Right.
Because of course, what do we need?
Introverts still need alone time. We still need alone time. We still need those moments to unplug. And, with everybody at home all the time and all these Zoom calls and Microsoft Teams meetings, as you were just describing, it just feels like you can't escape. Where are you going to go? Where are you going to go? Because even though the shutdown is not as stringent as it had been at the beginning, there are still restrictions.
Yes.
And if you are a masker, as opposed to an anti-masker, if you're a masker and you go out and you realize, okay, here I am in a park, I'm trying to enjoy some alone time in the fresh air, but everybody around you is not wearing a mask, you're not going to feel comfortable, then you're going to go back home. And so you're back in that situation where, frankly, you might feel a little trapped because you can't get away from people. You can't get away from them in person or on screen.
Yes.
Which I think is different than it was pre-pandemic.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's definitely, it can be difficult to carve out that space, Definitely. And then of course, Zoom calls, yes, in some ways they're better than in-person meetings, but also not as well, because yes, there's something a little bit performative about them.
Yeah.
One or two of them can be okay, but as we've said, back-to-back Zoom calls are draining. Sometimes it's hard to read body language in the way that you would in person. So that means that there's more concentration required and there's more stress.
Yes.
Right? Okay.
I agree. I mean, I remember I did have one day early on in this new job that I'm in where I was in back-to-back meetings.
Yes.
And I felt like I had gone out and commuted and the whole thing, it was exhausting,
Exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
very weird. And
everything
I
is
think
weird.
also, it's all weird, and I think, again, that generalizing beyond introverts, I think for introverts and everyone having to, celebrate occasions, mark certain occasions, even mourn virtually. It just adds a layer of strangeness and stress, so while I appreciate the creativity, we all do appreciate the creativity of virtual weddings, virtual birthday parties, these occasions that we were just talking about.
Yes.
Virtual happy hours, there's a lot of those going on, but sometime in the midst of all of that happening, you realize, hang on a second, this is weird. This is not how it's supposed to be. I can't touch my people, my people whom I love. I can't touch my loved ones. I can't hug them. I can't actually be in the same space with them. And just that knowledge, that cognitive dissonance creates mental and emotional stress. And yes, you're having your virtual wedding or whatever, or party to build connection, to try to connect in some way, but it can sort of ironically heighten the feeling of disconnection.
It's kind of partial,
Yeah.
you get part way to building connection, and it's better than no connection, but
Yeah.
it still feels a little unreal sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
even I think, even as an introvert, the couple of times recently that I have gone out and met people, it's like all the people that you would normally hug, you don't hug. I am no longer
Right.
hugging anybody outside my immediate family,
Yeah.
right? You don't
Mm-hmm.
touch. You might, depending on distance, you might slap somebody on the shoulder. You give them the elbow knock.
Are you doing? Yeah, I was just
You're
going to
doing
ask if you're
elbow
doing the
knock,
elbow bump.
right? So it's very strange. It's very strange. And then virtual events, again, better than nothing. But a virtual wedding is not the same as a wedding,
Yeah.
and a virtual funeral, I don't think is the same as a funeral. I have seen people
It,
posting about this on Twitter, and
wow.
that feeling of disconnection is real.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
it's
Because
it's
because you
it's
feel, I would imagine you feel like the mourning, I don't know, it's incomplete. I don't know if
yes,
that's the right word.
yes,
Yeah,
exactly,
something is missing.
exactly.
Yeah,
You
something is
know,
missing.
so
And I think also because and you and I had mentioned several episodes ago, I believe it might even have been in season 1,
right.
right? That there's going to be a mental health crisis coming out of this pandemic, and it is unavoidable, right?
Yes, yes,
And the thing is with this crisis that we're kind of going through globally, is that in general, crises and hard times can bring people together. Like, remember, like after like 9/11, for
hmm,
example, and how when was it Notre Dame that burned down? Was it that?
yes, yes, yes,
Yeah.
that started to
And
burn
the
down.
whole world rallies and so on and so forth, um and rallies together in person,
Yes, which we can't do
and
that.
which we can't do by and large in this situation. So the shelter in place, the self-isolation, quarantine, all of those pandemic related protocols have sort of they've put an end to the natural way that people would connect in times of crisis. So people are unable to be with their support circle, right? And
Mhm.
introverts, like everybody else, although we maybe have less of a need for a wider circle, but we still have a circle. We still have loved ones, and so
Exactly.
everybody is just trying to deal with the crisis, and a lot of people are dealing with it alone. Zoom support group or no Zoom support group, there's still that feeling of disconnection and loneliness, and it exacerbates it. And if there are existing mental health issues,
It can make
it's going
them
to make them
worse.
worse for sure.
Yes.
Yeah.
And of
or
course,
or trigger or trigger them if they don't exist already.
yes. And of course, the thing that I think we've referred to before
Hmm.
is that it's all well and good to choose to be alone. It's not
Yes.
quite the same when it is enforced, when it is forced on you.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
that can definitely make people more anxious, right?
Yes, yes,
And it's
yes.
being called the shadow pandemic.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
I'm just going to read something that the CDC, Centers for Disease Control, published.
Hmm.
The coronavirus disease pandemic has been associated with mental health challenges related to the morbidity and mortality caused by the disease and mitigation activities, including the impact of physical distancing and stay-at-home orders. Symptoms of anxiety disorder and depressive disorder increased considerably in the United States during April to June of 2020 compared with the same period in 2019. So in other words,
Hmm.
no, we're not imagining it. Yes, it is harder.
Right. It is harder, and there already been increases in um, the report mentioned suicidal ideation
Mhm.
and actual suicides, and so people are hurting. People are hurting, and it is we're all dealing with a lot, And even, again, one of the regular activities that's happening virtually is virtual therapy.
Yeah.
Which is amazing and fantastic and necessary, but there are still times when you need someone physically there.
Exactly. So
Yeah.
therefore,
Mm-hmm.
in answer to the original question,
Yeah.
calling 2020 the year of the introvert is really an oversimplification.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Because introversion is a spectrum, right, sis?
It really is. Again, while most introverts might be happy with the new normal, there are some introverts that are that are struggling. All introverts are not reacting the same, right?
No.
Although the world in general now feels more introversion friendly, there is a spectrum, a continuum of introverted personality types.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody is multifaceted. And so yeah, generally speaking, introverts are happy with the new world, but there are some parts of it that are tough for introverts and everybody else. So all introverts are not reacting the same. And I would not necessarily classify 2020 as the year of the introvert, although I understand why people believe that it is.
I understand why people believe that, but I think it's very important for us to check on our people, right?
Yeah.
For us to realize that even introverts who enjoy spending time alone, who might not normally experience loneliness, might now be feeling that disconnection and that loneliness because of this very unusual situation. Mm-hmm. Okay, this is beyond introversion and extroversion, really. I think this is just people.
Yeah.
Right? Check
it's
on
just
them.
People.
Check on them.
Yes.
Because you don't know what they're going through and you don't know how they're coping. Right?
Yes. So check on your people. I mean, even if you think that they're okay, just send a text. Send a text. If you're an introvert and you don't like to call, you guys know our stance on that already. But
text don't call.
Yeah. Text don't call, but text.
But text.
But text and ask, hey, how are you doing? How are you coping? Is everything okay? Mm-hmm. Send a little joke, something.
Yeah, reach out.
Reach out and pay attention. Introverts are very good at this, is sort of paying attention to the unsaid, right?
Yes.
What is unspoken. If you realize that you're not getting the same kind of response that you ordinarily would from a person that you know well, then yes, even as an introvert, pick up the phone and call that person.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so you can hear their voice and they know, mm-hmm. They know that you are putting that, they're worth it.
Exactly.
They're worth you picking up the phone and calling.
That can make all the difference to how connected somebody feels and to whether you're helping them get through what's a tough time for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I think
so that's it for now.
I think that's it for now, unless you have any final words.
Well, text, don't call, but do text.
And call if you need to.
Sorry?
And call if you need to check on your people.
Call and check on your people. Call and check on your people. And again, this goes beyond introversion, extroversion. So sometimes, actually, you might have to go to someone's house, socially distance in a safe way, put your mask on, go to their house, knock on their door, and then back away and say, hey, I just came to check on you because I haven't heard from you in a couple of weeks. Are you okay? Like literally, there are cases where you might have to do that, but do check on your people. That's the message.
Yes. And I think with that, we're going to call it a day. So thanks for listening. Okay.
Thanks, guys.
And, continue to stay safe. Bye.
Stay safe. Bye.
You've been listening to the Introvert Sisters. Loved what you heard? You can catch all our episodes on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, SoundCloud, and all other major platforms. Subscribe, rate, and write a review. Find us online at theintrovertsisters.com and follow us on Instagram and Facebook at The Introvert Sisters. See you next time. Peace.